It's the Full Force Comics Burst, brought to you by Distant Planet Comics and Collectibles with me, Diagnostic 80, and toy photography genius Brian Hickey. Today we are looking at G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, issue 271 from Larry Hama and Robert Atkins. Let's do this. Snake Hunt Part 6. We're at the midpoint and the thrills are just getting started. Cobra Commander wants a Snake Eyes of his own. The Joes have other ideas. It'll take two armies to settle this dispute. It's all hands on deck for both G.I. Joe and Cobra as living legend Larry Hama and fan favourite artist Robert Atkins continue their massive 10-issue event featuring every single member of G.I. Joe. There's no half-time break in this contest, folks. All action, all the time. That is straight from IDW. I have nothing to do with that write-up. Brian,
Hey.
So we're back in with Snake Hunt, and it feels good to be back in with this, doesn't it? Because, again, there was that worry that we weren't going to see an end to this story.
You know, it's just great to get a sense that, you know, certainly in the comics industry. I mean, well, let me just back up here a little sec. I know that a lot of these comics are kind of commissioned, you know, months in advance, and no one could have foreseen there was going to be a global pandemic or that it was going to effectively shut down the comics industry temporarily. But it's great to see that, you know, that things are kind of moving again. Comics are starting to get out there, you know, out to the comic shops, and it's great to have issue 271 back in hand, because I've been really enjoying this particular run. I mean, I love, you know, the ARAH comic anyway, so it's brilliant to kind of get back into Snake Hunt and see where where our heroes are at this stage. Let's
talk about the covers. There's 5 in total on this one. They get really greedy with the covers on these. We have the standard cover by Robert Atkins, and that is, you know, this really kind of bright, vibrant Snake Eyes, kind of like jumping. It looks like he's jumping backwards. There's explosions around him. He's firing his gun. You know, it's a classic Robert Atkins Snake Eyes looking cover, isn't it? Really nice stuff.
Absolutely beautiful. The detail that Robert gets into is, you know, like right down the soles of his boot, all the little, you know, tread marks in there. Nothing is overlooked.
Yeah.
You know, the pouches, the belts, the web gear, everything, like the knee pads, the armored knee pads. You know, the holster. His holster on his leg is open.
Yeah, it's open, so he's got the gun out and everything. Yeah, nice touch.
Robert's attention to detail is why we love his work so much. You know, and it's very crisp. It's very clear. You know, some artists have kind of a looser, rougher style. Robert's all about, you know, the detail. The line work is beautiful. This cover is top notch work from a top notch artist.
We also have the kind of like the second series of wraparounds now from Jamie Sullivan, and we get this absolutely stonking cover B with you've got like Mutton Junkyard front and center, you've got Footloose, you've got your Muskrat, you've got Dusty, you've got Falcon, Sci-Fi. You know, I'm not going to go through every single character. There's a lot of them on there, and behind them, the Mobile Command Center. Very rarely do we get to see the Mobile Command Center on the cover of a Joe comic, and I think that it just looks amazing on this cover.
This is going to be a really nice kind of suite of covers, and I have been going for the variant B covers as I'm collecting these issues, so hopefully I'll be able to pick up more of these. Just out of curiosity, Chris, who's the guy in the picture frame that Hawk is holding up?
It's Dusty that's holding him, and it's a guy called Mangler from the original Marvel series, a guy that died in the desert with Dusty and a couple of other guys, and he was like, I think Lightfoot was involved in that as well. So yeah, Mangler is his name, and yeah, he's that's why he's holding him up as an image as opposed to being there, because he's passed in the continuity.
Brilliant. That's a nice touch on that. It's great to be able to get the, you know, you're much more familiar with the history of the 1980s Larry Hama comics than I would be. I'm much more of an Action Force guy.
I'll tell you now, though. There's a bunch of other dead characters on that page that are physically there, by the way. But for some reason, they're still in this issue, and I still don't know. We're still not getting any answers yet, and that's the October Guard. But we will obviously get to that later.
That's been an ongoing mystery in this
Oh my
series.
god, it's like the running joke, isn't it, for us? In any case, the next cover we have is John Royal, and that is a retailer incentive cover, and it is Firefly and Zanya from the Dreadnoks, and Zartan's daughter, effectively. And you've got explosions going off behind them, so obviously they have just sabotaged the boat at this port that they're in. So yeah, another striking cover, shall we say?
Love just the brief every month. It's like, John, just do something. We don't really care what it is. You don't need the script.
We don't
just
need
something cool.
It can't have anything to do with what's going on inside the issue. We need it to have characters that aren't involved, and we need it to be completely unrelated to anything that's going on in the story. Which
they have like a bat phone, right? It's the Royal Jagdish phone. They just get on the Royal Jagdish phone. We need something cool, quick, and they just knock it out of the park.
That's so true. But yeah, it's good to see Firefly and Zanya's one of those characters you haven't really seen since the Devil's Due run, I don't think. So, or you don't really see that often. So it's nice to see her. And then finally we've got two covers. They're Eastside Comics exclusives, and they are John Jiang covers, and it's basically the same. It's the same image, but then kind of altered with different colors. And you've got the Baroness in kind of like black, and then also in red. So you've got the kind of crimson stripe Baroness as well. Very kind of like there's almost an element of photorealism to it. Like that kind of very you kind of have to double take to make sure it's not real. But yeah, what are your thoughts on that one?
I love this cover. This is that kind of photorealism, or obviously it is a digital illustration, but it's so much detail in it. It almost looks photographic, and reminds me a little bit of kind of Clint Langley's work on the ABC Warriors in 2000 AD. Whereas it's very heavily digitally illustrated, but he just works in these kind of layers and layers and layers, and just makes things look real. So it's really nice how this kind of has been executed. And I love the design of the Baroness is a little bit different from what we've seen. So she looks more like a biker girl than sort of a leather-clad assassin, which I thought was a pretty cool take.
Yeah, there's definitely got that kind of Dreadnought vibe going on. Yeah, totally. And in any case, yeah, that's all the covers. Quite a few on this one. Let's get into the actual issue now. So obviously last time we saw our Joe heroes, we had everyone kind of trying to go off in different directions to basically defy the order to stand down and not rescue Snake Eyes. It was a bit of a shocker because we were kind of thinking, wow. And then right at the end of the issue, you see them all lined up saying, all these guys want to go on leave. Are they allowed? And it's like, yeah, sure. So that was cute. So we've got some of the lads. I think we've got Stalker, Clutch, Rock and Roll, and Wade are in the Bongo the Balloon Bear van, and that's where we start this issue. And take us away, Brian. It's hilarious.
Well, I mean, this is the opening line. I told you not to pass that guy, and we can see that they've been pulled over by a traffic cop. Couldn't be any more ridiculous looking in their balloon bongo van, and trying to explain to the traffic cop that they're actually we're on a mission. And the cop is like, okay, well, I'm going to have to, check things out in the back anyway. And when he opens the back door,
two absolutely armed
rock and roll.
Yeah.
So, and I love Rock and Roll's explanation. If we were the bad guys, you'd be dead by now.
Yeah. So
let us get going. And he just sends them on their way.
Slams the door and off you go. Good luck. And then obviously we swing back into Laura 343, I want to say. I always get that wrong. It's probably 8 something. But
I think it is 343, yeah.
I'm just going to say that anyway. Even if it's not, that's what I'm calling it from now on. And she is obviously covering Snake or Throwdown, and he's kind of wriggling around. He's he's Harry Houdiniing his way out of his straps and his straight jacket and all that kind of stuff to escape. And she's kind of saying, stop, I'm going to shoot you if you don't stop. But she doesn't at any point. She doesn't shoot him at any point, and he gets all the way to the door and he's about to like pick the lock and everything, and she's like, you've got a lock pick? I mean, And she's like, I will shoot you. And he just will not listen.
I mean, I think at this stage, I mean, she's been telling him to stop for the last 3 months of quarantine, and
So true.
he's not stopping. So, Laura 343, we know she's not going to pull that trigger, and Sean Collins knows she's not going to pull the trigger.
Yeah, I think that we're ramping up for her to be like I want to say like kind of like more of a moral-headed. She's not really Cobra, is she? Let's face it.
No, I mean, if we roll back a few issues when the Joe defenses made mincemeat of the Cobra's strike force that invaded Fort Wadsworth, she was reflecting on the carnage, the waste of human life. When she gets back to Springfield with Throwdown, she doesn't get treated like a hero. Cobra Commander treats her almost with disdain and gives her, a job of staying in the cage, basically, with Sean Collins, or Snake Eyes as they believe it to be. And what I imagine is going to happen is that she's going to basically see through the bullshit. He's learned in this issue that she's worked her ass off to get to where she is in Cobra, and there's going to be no payoff and no respect for all that effort she's put in, and that's going to help kind of turn in which side she's going to be on for sure, I would imagine, before this series is out.
Yeah, agreed. And then we come to we got another train. It's like trains are the theme tying these issues together, because obviously we just did the G.I. Joe issue 6 as well, and that had a train theme in the first page. Now, this is the Arashikage team. They're on a train heading to wherever they're heading to rescue Snake Eyes, I guess. And this is just really like a little bit of downtime, a little bit of conversation between everybody, a little bit of like, just kind of calm before the storm, I would say, with these guys. And you get some random kid come through who's got like a case, like obviously some sort of instrument case. He sees all the instrument cases next to is that Dawn that's sitting there?
That's Dawn, yeah.
And he kind of converses with her and says, oh, that's a vintage Fender Tweed case. Bet you have a sweet pre-CBS Strat or telly in there. Can I see it? And she actually tells him the truth. She says it's just full of weapons and gear, mate. And he's like, yeah, right, okay.
This is a nice little interaction between like these two characters, Dawn and like the stoner guitar player guy. He's walking through the carriage singing Smoke on the Water. And he's clearly a total guitar nerd, and being a guitar player myself, I know a few of them. This guy is like based on about 10 different blokes that I know, and I love that she just gives him the full weapons inventory of what's stacked in these kind of guitar cases that are crammed in on the bench beside her, on the seat beside her. And he's like, yeah, I guess you just don't want to show off your expensive collector item axes.
Yeah. Brilliant.
It's one thing on this here, which is on this train sequence, which is probably worth noting, is that we have Granny and Milo kind of playing a little game together. Milo's making these kind of patterns with a piece of string, and he's trying to teach Granny Arashikage, and she's like, oh, I could never learn how to do that. And he says, you've mastered 108 mystic finger knits. And I'm just wondering if perhaps that's a setup for something that's going to
could be
happen a bit later in this issue.
Could be. I mean, you do find sometimes these little things stick out, don't they? And you think, oh, that's going to be necessary down the line. And yeah, I could see that being the case, definitely. Now, this issue is very much a case of isolating what everyone's doing, finding them in the story, and flipping back and forth. So it's been like this for a while now, where you're dealing with so many different characters. Before they all come together, you've really got to kind of like pinpoint and find where they are. Now, in the past, I have had issues with the issues of it being a little bit like, we kind of didn't need to know that. We knew where they were. Nothing has changed. It wasn't necessary. And I kind of feel like this is it's another issue for me. And I know we're getting to almost like getting to an overall like synopsis of it at the moment, but it feels like another issue of just getting ready for something. And I'm kind of thinking, again, did we need that? In any case, we whip over to the interstate where we see Zartan and the Dreadnoks on their bikes, followed by Zorana and Road Pig in a Trazan Brothers moving van of truck, which is quite funny. So again, it's the the classic move the letters around to full nobody. And you have, obviously, them having their conversation. That moves inside the back of the semi where you've got the rest of the Dreadnoks. And they're all talking like, you know, almost like it feels like there's a little bit of mutiny possibly on the cards.
I mean, it kind of makes sense, you know, from a certain point of view. The Dreadnoks in this run, they have no love for Cobra. They've no love for G.I. Joe either. And it seems like a big risk to be going deep into the heart of Cobra territory to rescue a Joe. And clearly, you know, Zanzibar is like, you know, not happy about it. Even Naugahyde is, you know, kind of questioning what's going on here. But it falls to
Xandar, his brother.
Xandar to kind of say, listen, guys, this is all part of a bigger plan here. And I think that kind of does make sense, because there doesn't seem to be initially a whole lot of logic to Zartan wanting to help, you know, Destro and the Baroness, and, you know, help Sean Collins, just to kind of piss Cobra Commander off a little bit. It would make sense if there's a bigger prize at stake for Zartan to put so much on the line. And I think that's where, again, there's a setup here for a bigger play that Zartan is going to, you know, put in motion down the line.
I just wanted to kind of also, while we're doing this, I'd like to kind of like point out all the characters that we're getting on display here, because we are starting to see like loads and loads of characters kind of pumped into this. So you've got, obviously, on the bikes, you've got the standard crew. You've got Zartan, Buzzer, Torch, and Ripper, by the looks of things. Like I said, Road Pig and Zorana driving and in the truck behind. And then inside the cab, you've got the Thunder Machine, you've got a couple of motorcycles, and then you've got Zanzibar, Thrasher, Xandar, Naugahyde, Monkey Wrench, Zanya, I think I said Zanya, and Burnout. And they're in the back of the truck. So you've got literally the whole complement of Dreadnoks, more or less, there. I can't think of many others that aren't in that list. And then we flip over to Utah, and this is where we see tons of characters.
Yeah, that's geez. I mean, they're really delivering on their promise to get every single Joe ever into this particular story. And you know, the way the Joe forces are kind of mobilizing here, it's a real come down from in the previous issue, where they're breaking out all the big vehicles just before they get the order to stand down. And now it's a couple of coaches, but they're cramming the troops onto those. It's and they're all kind of queuing up to get on the, you know, to get on board coach number one. And I'll let you name them all now, Chris.
So you've got Grand Slam is actually, he's driving the bus. So you don't see him in the initial shot, but he's actually sitting up front on the bus, and you see that later on in the issue. So you've got Flash, who's like the first person you can see on the left hand side. Then it's Zap. Then it's Airborne, Tripwire, Blowtorch, Recondo, Ripcord. Apologies, yeah, it's Ripcord. And then, sorry, I have to lean in. Mutton Junkyard on the floor, Alpine, Airtight on the bus with Barbecue, and you've also got Gung Ho and Spirit and Roadblock in shot as well. And then underneath them, you've got Backstop, and he's actually been told to drive the MBT Mauler, which is quite interesting. It's like they're not using the Persuader, they're using the Mauler, but obviously Heavy Metal is dead in the continuity, so he wouldn't drive the Mauler. So they've put Backstop in there, which I think is quite an interesting little kind of idea there. And then you've also got Steeler in that shot as well. I think just a random green shirt in the background, and
green
you've got
shirt, yeah,
the Rolling Thunder and like the MBT Mauler in the background there. And I actually think there's a Persuade. Oh no, it's the Havoc. It's the Havoc.
Oh yeah.
So but again, looking at the tracks, you could probably say it's the Havoc. Yeah, it's the front of the Havoc, isn't it? On between Steeler and Backstop, it's the front of the Havoc, because you can see the cockpit. And then when you come back, you can see it's the Havoc that's being lowered. You're correct. Good spot. Let's move on. On that next page, we have our first error, and I think it's only going to happen because of the amount of characters you're dealing with. But basically, it says, got my mean dog all loaded up. You got a tarp big enough to hide the Havoc cross country? That is not Wildcard. And he says, He's talking to him and he says the name Wildcard Cross Country, but it's not Wildcard. That is Long Range as a character design. So that the mistake is with the art, I think, there, not with the writing. Yeah. Because if you look on the next page, literally the next page, he even calls Long Range out, and there he is next to Muskrat and Torpedo. So, that's a shame. You know, everything was going so well, and then we get that kind of little error. Especially when you're dealing with a lot of characters, it's understandable that this might happen, but still. And then we get Hawk coming onto the bus and basically kind of saying, "At ease, troops, how you're all doing?" And then he gets a shot of all of them, and it's okay. Here we go, from right to left, starting at the front: Lowlight, Leatherneck, Flint, Shipwreck, Footloose, coming back, Lady J. No idea who that blonde guy is. Falcon, Law and Order, Frostbite, Mainframe, Psych-Out right at the back. It looks like we've got Airborne again, even though he's on the other bus, and Sci-Fi. So I think there's another error there, and the Airborne should be on the other bus. And I don't know who that guy is in the back with the glasses.
He's got like a ponytail.
Yeah, not a clue. So yeah, I failed on that one, and I'm not sure who the blonde guy is. I think it might be Chuckles, actually. Yeah, it is Chuckles. You can just make out a little bit of his Hawaiian shirt behind.
That's right. Yeah, the pattern there.
Okay, so we've worked most of them out. It's just that one guy we don't know who that is.
If any of the listeners can tell us who that dude with the shades, baseball cap, and ponytail is,
it looks like
we'd love to know.
It looks like when Cobra Commander goes under, like, you know, when he puts the disguise on. In any case, yes, they all shout Yojo and they get moving, and this is where we see Grand Slam. Obviously, Duke speaks to Grand Slam directly, and off they go, and the Tomahawks in the background flying behind them. And as that lands, we've got G.I. Joe Colton, Muskrat, Long Range, and Torpedo obviously kind of aiding on the ground, and then we also see Lift Ticket. Blimey, there's so many characters in this, and then obviously they bring out the big guns, and out comes the Defiant, and it's Payload and Hardtop, and you're just like, that. Crazy, right?
That's a great moment in this particular story when they just roll that out. And of course, they need to bring that in because we know that from, again, the previous issue, that Joe Colton's satellite network, which powers up his super weapon effectively, has been taken out. So he needs to get some replacement hardware up in space ASAP, and who better to sort that out than G.I. Joe with the Defiant. And this is a just fantastic scene here with this gets rolled out.
Yeah, so apologies for stumbling through all of that, but yeah, there's a lot to kind of get through here. And the interesting thing is there's not really that much going on. It's just them preparing to move out and kind of getting going. So that's where we're at with the Joes. Then we flip over to the Dewdrop Inn in New Jersey. That's where Destro, the Baroness, and are where they were hanging out with Zartan and the Dreadnoks before they left. Destro has basically called on his Iron Grenadiers to come to him, and that's where we see like his like elite team turn up with AGPs, with despoilers and all that kind of stuff, and it's a pretty epic sight, isn't it?
That's pretty cool. You see they're kind of silhouetted in the distance as they're kind of approaching the Dewdrop Inn. He's not quite sure, what that is. Is it a flock of birds? What is that? And then you just see them coming into land, and it's a pretty kick-ass force of Iron Grenadiers bringing some serious hardware with them. And they regroup with Destro and the Baroness. He says, look, you guys have a chance to it's an open bar, you can get some refreshments, but don't overdo it because we're going to roll out to Springfield as soon as darkness falls. So he's going to be bringing some heat into Springfield, hopefully next issue.
Absolutely. And then obviously we see Revanche HQ in New Jersey. So again, we're like flipping all over the place to see where everybody is, and we get all of we get Alpha 001, the kind of spider-like droid, kind of basically leading all of his drones, and he's kind of saying at this point it's a rebuild for them, so it doesn't matter what you are, what level you are, you're all the same right now, you're workers. And they're just basically building to get strong again, to also, be involved in this huge battle. And it's going to be on so many fronts. You're going to have Zartan and the Dreadnoks, Destro and the Iron Grenadiers. You're going to have the Revanche crew. You're going to have the October Guard. You're going to have G.I. Joe, and you're going to have Cobra. It's like 6 factions. Oh, and Arashikage. 7 factions all combining into one massive battle by the sounds of things.
That is, I really want this battle to start next issue and run for the rest of the.
That's what I'm saying.
run.
I mean, I feel like we are stuck in this forever getting ready mode, and that's, I think, one reason one thing I have against this issue. As nice as it is again to see lots of characters, we aren't really seeing any movement necessarily. Do you know what I mean? Again, and I'm not sure how necessary it is to constantly see the same thing. So the Revanche thing is really just them, nothing really happens. They have a little bit of a conversation about what they're going to do, and that's about it. And then we go to Springfield, and that's where we've got Cobra Commander and Dr. Mindbender again, just really discussing their plans. They want to utilize the mind control over Snake Eyes again. They want to kind of get him onto the Cobra Force. That's what they're trying to do, and he's basically forcing Mindbender to work against the clock, isn't he?
There's kind of a running theme here. We've had a few flashbacks now to, in previous issues, between where we see Cobra Commander and Mindbender, and Cobra Commander is like, we've got to move quick, and Mindbender is going to be, this is going to take a long time, and he's kind of reiterating that this is going to take, even when we get him strapped into the chair, it's going to take many hours, maybe even many days for this to work. So I don't know, is Mindbender maybe, is he pursuing a slightly different agenda here from Cobra Commander?
Could be.
They definitely seem to be at odds, and maybe it's nothing, but clearly it would seem that this process isn't going to happen as quickly as Cobra Commander wants it to. So how that's going to play out maybe in favor for Sean Collins and the various crews coming to rescue him, we'll have to wait and see.
And then we finished the issue coming back to Laura 343 and Throwdown. He's broken out of his cell, and she's still not going to shoot him, or she still hasn't shot him. And he's like, what are you doing with your hands? And he starts to get into the Arashikage mindset kind of hand gesture. So he's obviously going to try and, basically control her into, or change her mind, or get some sort of kind of control over her to prevent her from shooting him, I guess. But also because I think
mystic finger knits.
Yeah,
that's all I'm going to say.
Exactly. So, and that's where it ends. And again, like, I know, it's fun to see all the characters. Don't get me wrong. It's great to see vehicles. It's great to see that kind of stuff. I think that's my favorite part of this issue, is seeing all of the Dreadnoks that we haven't seen for a while. It's seeing all of the Joes who, haven't had much airtime for a while. Seeing a huge cadre of Iron Grenadiers. That's fun. That's great. But honestly, for me, nothing happened in this issue. And I think, again, it's just, this is the one problem I have with A Real American Hero at the moment. And I know we slightly differ on this, because I know you're loving it and all that stuff. I do enjoy it, but at the same time, I'm just left so wanting each issue. Like, it's like, get on with it. Like, you've got, 7, 8, 9, we've got like 4 issues left, right? 7, 8, 9, yeah, 4 issues to go. Something has to happen now, and it has to like continually happen for the rest of the series.
I have to agree with you, Chris. Like, we had G.I. Joe mobilizing last issue, and then they got an order to stand down, and they used this issue to remobilize, albeit in a different way. So while it is exciting to see all the various vehicles kind of coming into play, it feels almost as if the stand down order was a convenient tool to just get more vehicles showcased in a second round of mobilization.
Yeah.
Really, what I want to see here is we've got all the major factions converging for one epic battle. I want that epic battle to start like ASAP. And I understand, okay, that when you're trying to write a story and you're trying to capture all these different characters and all these moving parts, maybe it can only go so fast. But really, I'm like yourself. I'm at the point where I want to see some major action, and I want that action to last for at least 4 issues.
I will point out that you mentioned there about like you got to take some time to get these pieces into place and so on and so forth. But Larry is the the writer in is like his old Marvel writing, and it may be that he's kind of changed his ways slightly, but he's the kind of guy that would, like, Cobra, the Cobra Civil War kicked off in about 2 panels. Like, it was Serpentor and Cobra Commander were like at each other's throat, and then the next panel we're into Cobra Civil War, and it was like that fast, and I'm not even exaggerating. And then we've come to this, and it's taken so. I mean, yeah, there was that great element where they got in and they took Snake Eyes, and I thought, oh, this is ramping up, and then they'll chase him, and then they'll do battle, and it seems to just keep hitting these walls where it's like, oh, we're just going to chill out now, and we're going to just sit here, and we're going to talk, and we're going to contemplate this, and then we're going to see what the October Guard are doing, and see what the Dreadnoughts are doing, and it's like, why are we doing this? It's not necessary. It really isn't necessary. It just feels very drawn out to me, and my only enjoyment at the moment is seeing all of the characters, really.
I mean, that obviously is a big fun part of it, but you could show all those characters, queuing up to get on a bus, or you could have them all charging into battle.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's lots of ways you can showcase the characters. So you can't. So we can't use that as an excuse for slowing down the story. There's plenty of scope to get them in there without having to rehash the mobilization of the various teams. But I haven't not. I mean, that sounds very negative now. The last couple of minutes of kind of banter there, but I have enjoyed this issue. I'm liking the visual style of this. I mean, we were talking about Robert's art right at the very beginning of this, Joe, and there is, and it's worth pointing out that there's a certain quality to the visual aesthetic here that makes this look retro. I mean, this is a continuity from the work that was done by Larry Hama and Herb Trimpe back in the 80s. And the visual style in this, and it occurred to me recently, is that it's trying to marry up with that. So if you owned all those comics from issue number 1 in the early 80s right up to issue 271 today, you could flick through those, and visually they'd all kind of marry up somehow.
Yeah.
They wouldn't look completely alien. Like if you brought in a Chris Evenhouse and Brittany Peer style to this particular book, it would look completely out of context with the work that was done a few decades ago.
Yeah, totally.
So Robert and Brian Atkins do a really nice job of bringing that kind of retro style, and there's nowhere that's more obvious than smack bang in that first page. Even those colors of the bongo balloon van and stuff. I mean, it's just, visual style is great. So there's lots of things I love about this, but I'm kind of hankering for a major battle now in Springfield, and hopefully we'll see that kicking off next issue.
Yep, totally. And I will have to I agree with you on the visual stuff. I mean, the art is always great from Robert Atkins. I love his stuff, and yeah, Brian's done a great job on the colors there. Now, what are we thinking in the overall terms of the potatings for this one then, Brian?
I'm just going to go with the four potatoes. It's again, lots that I like about it, but I've got to knock the one potato off because it's it's time to get going with the action here, lads. Come on, let's bring it up a notch.
I'm going 3. And like I said, similar reasoning, but for me, the art obviously saves a lot of it, but then also seeing the characters and all the different vehicles, that is like a large element of it for me. But we've got to get something going. It's been salvaged by that for me. The last couple, I feel like we really do. They ramp it up, and we're like really excited, and we really enjoy it, and then all of a sudden we have 2 or 3 of these issues in a row, and it's like, damn, like you've what the opportunity you have to kind of like, and I do feel like they're trying to spread something out inside the 10 issues. Like that must be the reasoning behind it, because we could easily have been having a massive battle, a massive, huge kind of multi-level battle for the last half of this series. But in any case, hopefully we'll get 4 issues of that next.
Well, do you know what, Larry Hama, we know you don't listen to the show, and even if you did, you wouldn't care anyway.
Yeah, so true.
But come on.
So true. But anyway, yeah, still, I'm going to be buying it. There's no doubt about that. And I'm so glad it's back. So yeah, in any case, looking forward to the next issue. Brian, buddy, thanks for jumping on yet again. and chatting G.I. Joe 271 with me.
Oh, my pleasure.
That's it for this instalment of the Full Force Comics Burst. Thank you to my awesome co-host, Brian Hickey. See you next time, and as always, Full Force. Make sure you get involved with the discussion by liking, sharing and commenting on these videos, and as always you can keep up with the show after listening by following on Twitter at The Full Force, liking the Facebook page, facebook.com/The Full Force, and if you would like to contact the show you can message us on either of those platforms with feedback or questions. We have also started a Patreon page, so if you want to see your name up in lights on these videos or enjoy exclusive bonus content, then check out patreon.com/The Full Force Podcast, or click the link on any of the posts this podcast appears in. Full Force. And a big shout out to our sponsors, Distant Planet Comics and Collectibles, located at 601 Business Loop 70 West Suite 263, located in the Parkade Center, Columbia, Missouri. You can visit their website at distantplanetcomics.com and on Facebook at facebook.com/distantplanetcomics.